Mr. Saudi Crown Prince, well, damn it. What would you want for WWE Crown Jewel?
You will give me, Undertaker, $5 million.
Eterna, victory!
Shawn Michaels, $5 million.
Eterna, victory!
You will bring Kane, $2 million.
Eterna, victory!
Wait a minute. He's the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
No matter, you will bring Kane, $2 million.
Eterna, victory!
Oh, damn it, okay.
You will also bring Hulk Hogan, $1 million.
Well, damn it, he can't wrestle.
No matter, you bring Hulk Hogan, $1 million.
Okay.
Eterna, victory!
Brock Lesnar, you bring $2 million.
He's going to want $5 million.
Okay? $5 million, Brock Lesnar.
Eterna, victory!
What about my cut, Saudi Crown Prince? Where's my cut?
Salabim, please give Mr. McMahon $50 million.
Saudi Arabia, it's time to shake things up again.
Eterna, victory!
KingofPodcasts.com proudly presents The Wrestling is Real Podcast. Brought to you by Amazon. The King of Podcasts loves shopping at Amazon because he loves buying great stuff. You should buy from Amazon so you can support the Wrestling is Real Podcast. KingofPodcasts.com/Amazon. Why didn't they just make this a house show and even bother to put it on the WWE Network? I'm talking about Crown Jewel. And I don't even know what to say about this show. Except it was just very bad. As I title this show tonight, it's a crowning disappointment. I don't think anybody is going to ever go back to Crown Jewel and say they enjoyed it. This was December to December bad. And you would think you had a couple of matches that stood out that would have definitely been on point. These big money shows that WWE's been doing for the network have not been doing very well for themselves and not doing any service or justice to the fans. It sucked. This sucked. And I mean, regardless of the money that you make, I'm not going to, again, say anything when it comes to why they went or the things that surrounded the event. I mean, if you even had to go and look at what's going on online, the blowback that's going out there about Crown Jewel anyway, well, I get it. Okay, you can say whatever you want. We're seeing bashing on a ridiculous level because of political correctness and because people just are feigning outrage. That's the new phrase these days. When I watch anything in the media, it's feigning. Feigning. Feigning outrage. Everything that you see on TV and the media is meant to spark or emote something from you. Cause an emotion. Make you get angry, make you just get something. I don't know. It's just supposed to trigger you in some way. And that's what they want to do. NBC News put out a story after the Crown Jewel show saying it was a big step backwards for both gender equality and human rights, which, okay, you want to go ahead and say that and move along and whatever? Okay, fine. And I can only imagine what all the other shows are going to say about Crown Jewel. Because, man, it was... I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you how I watched this show. When I watched it tonight, I didn't get to watch it at 12 o'clock Eastern like everybody else did, but I did watch it tonight. And I watched it in a couple of spots because I went first to go ahead and watch some of it, and I went to go see Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a great movie. I'd recommend it. Go see it in the theater. By all means, excellent. Now, back to Crown Jewel. So, with this, 12 matches on the card. Okay. And, I mean, when you look at you have this glorified King of the Ring tournament, which meant nothing. What it was more was a storyline. That was it. Didn't matter how the matches went. It was just something to put together, and it was bad. And let me tell you something. When you look at Evolution and you look at this show, it's night and day. See, this is something where I'll tell you without a shadow of a doubt, without question, having 2 women's matches on a show like this would have helped greatly, because with the men doing this by themselves and having the way this was booked was awful. Some of the booking was terrible. I can't wrap my hands around it, but let's go through it. Let's talk about what there is. Now, everybody can talk about the fact of how this was done and all the issues that surrounded. Maybe some of you did not watch this show in protest, but then you're going to want to know what happened after the fact, just so you know if anything in storyline actually will apply to Raw, SmackDown, or the upcoming Survivor Series. Well, it's obvious Survivor Series, the way they're pushing it this year, is bragging rights. A pay-per-view that we really didn't care for much and means nothing in the long run. But they'll make it something out of nothing, and we'll have that, and we'll have TLC at the end of the year, and that'll be it for the off-season of the WWE. So, next 2 months, it's flat. And what they're giving us leading into it is even worse. But here we are. Okay. So, among the things that are going on with Saudi Arabia, besides the murder of the journalist that everybody knows about, there are other things that are going on, of course, that in Saudi Arabia everybody complains about, where there's accusations of severe human rights abuses, a war of attrition in Yemen, or suppressing women's rights. Again, the changes that are going to happen to this country, if anything that WWE offers will even make a dent into making changes in this country, well, that's to be said. And again, they have 10 years of this agreement, 9 more years now, to see if something can change. Nothing changed with this show. We know that. But it doesn't mean that the company wasn't going to go ahead and take advantage of doing this at all. Because WWE is a business. And they're not worried about all the things that were said about what happened with this event, what's going on in Saudi Arabia in terms of that striking news headline, everything that surrounded the Saudi embassy murder, or the consulate murder in Turkey. Everybody talked about that, but which way that's what's going on. And then for weeks we heard all about that leading up to the show, which puts a damper on the show in the first place. But regardless, I'm not even worrying about that. Like I said, I went ad nauseum through context the last few weeks talking about this show, and everybody can say what they want about it. Regardless, I understand why WWE wanted to do it. I see the stories that are out there saying that if Vince McMahon was going to do anything with it, we were going to reschedule it instead of canceling it altogether, which is what some people are saying to do. But again, that's a $16 million dent into their profits, which the shareholders would have nothing of. And that's the deal. Now, in the meantime, as of October 25th, over a week before the event, things still happened. Stephanie McMahon was quoted on a Sky Sports interview, or spoke to Sky Sports and said that this was a, quote, incredibly tough decision given that heinous act. But paraphrasing, said that in the end it was strictly a business decision. Well, listen, they made their money. So I'm going to just go ahead and pass on the browbeating and the social justice issues that everybody has for this show. You were entitled to them. You understand? It's not that they're not valid, but it's just not, I mean, it's what it is for anybody that comes into this part. And that's understood. But I can't worry about that. I cannot worry about that because, they are going to lie on their bed doing the Saudi Arabian deal, and that's what they're going to do. But again, this is, for them, in some cases, this is some of the mistakes that this company makes where, trying to shore up things at home, which is where the bulk of their business was. This global expansion was not going to be without consequences. There was no doubt about that. There was always going to be consequences to this, wherever they went. When they went to the Middle East, are you telling me there wasn't any kind of blowback when they go to Abu Dhabi? Who knows where else they go? Because Saudi Arabia allows this, and, you could definitely tell you're in a very different state, a different country, the way the setup of the whole thing was. Because, again, celebrities go to Saudi Arabia, other politicians, statesmen, lobbyists, any kind of important actors or foreign actors out there. Not talking about like movie kind of stuff, but I'm just saying foreign types that go travel to Saudi Arabia because at the behest of the Crown Prince. We talked about that several weeks ago extensively as to the hypocrisy of that. So you want to go ahead and thump on the decision business-wise for WWE to go ahead with this? I'm not going to worry about that. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is this show. And like I said, this show was bad. It's, again, you do a glorified King of the Ring tournament for a cup that means nothing, so that you could have a tagline, which was CM Punk's tagline, and now he gets to use it. Shane McMahon gets to use it in storyline because they want to make him a heel manager. We're back to that again. See, we're basically just reverting back to things that possibly worked post-Attitude Era, maybe, 10 years ago? We're going to go back to heel general managers. We're going to go back to part-timers again holding the belt. We're going to go back to taking down anybody else that could have been a significant move up the card, be a prominent main eventer, and Braun Strowman. No, we don't get that. And finally, we get a match that was nitro-rific. If you thought WCW should be given a lot of crap for all they ever did, having a bunch of old guys in the ring that were past their prime, then you talk to me about this D-Generation X versus the Brothers of Destruction match. This match looked good on paper in 1998. 20 years later, it's not a good idea. And it wasn't. And people might have enjoyed the build-up to it because the promos were good. But the match did not match up to it. The match did not deliver. And yes, there were reasons why. Triple H got hurt and everything kind of fell apart. But there's not only that. It was just bad altogether. But, I mean, what are you going to do? Triple H, I don't even remember him doing so much of a John Cena job by calling it ad-libbing during the match. I mean, though they talk about how they go ahead and make the other people kind of choreograph their matches. These four guys just went ahead and ad-libbed in the ring. And they just don't have it. And given the adversity of what they had, I mean, the one thing that was actually helpful for this entire show is that this Saudi Arabian audience, they were just eating up everything because what else did they get? What other enjoyment are they going to have when they go back home and they are under political pressure, or what kind of freedoms do they have when they go back home? Hey, listen, I'm not saying they don't have their issues. They absolutely do. But you cannot put the blame on WWE to say, okay, they're not going to take the money. You're not going to say anything to them about the fact that they can't at least try and do something. And if you think they were supposed to make things happen overnight and, we're going to put women back out there. We're going to fix these human rights abuses. Like, you think they're like you think they're a government leader? You think WWE's the damn United Nations out there? No, they're not. They're just a wrestling company when it's all said and done. This is why when we got into the WWE off season, I said it was very important that everyone out there please start looking into supporting the major independents. And I know we didn't talk much about it, since All In, because that's when everybody started really paying attention. Right at the start of August, when everything started kind of, or right at the end of start of September, everything started getting a little bit of traction. And here's the thing. Because of what's going on here with WWE, the way they're handling our off season, there's a report now that New Japan Pro Wrestling might look to lure WWE stars away. And they see WWE in a vulnerable position because I think there is a good possibility that morale among the roster is a bit low. And I'm not sure what the company's doing about it. But some of the decisions are being made within management. How much control do they have? I mean, it's a corporate company. How much control do Triple H and Stephanie and Vince still have over their board of directors and everything else that goes on? It's a cash grab wherever they can get it. And right now, this is where I think something's got to be said about looking at, if you need to wander your eyes somewhere else to enjoy some good wrestling, you're not going to get it from shows like Crown Jewel. You're not. Now, NWA 70th anniversary wasn't the best example, but I'll tell you what, All In from a few weeks back was pretty good. Bound for Glory was pretty good. I think the same anniversary was a better show, but I just think they're giving us better shows now in general, and they are trying to get all these companies are trying to make a move to build themselves into better venues. Now, Impact Wrestling is trying to stay within their means, and they're not trying to go for really big venues yet. They don't want to do that. Now, they are going to take the Asylum, so they're going to probably get a couple thousand people in Nashville, just like NWA did for the 70th anniversary for their homecoming show in January, which we'll look forward to. And then Ring of Honor will do Final Battle, but they're going to do it in a small venue as opposed to what they've been doing lately, working in the Ordnance Arena and working bigger arenas in, say, in Vegas for their anniversary show or other things like that. And those are the kind of things they're going to be thinking about concerning themselves. New Japan, obviously, working big venues themselves in January, or in Japan, but then also they did work in San Francisco this year and Long Beach. And they're, trying to build themselves into working other areas, which is good for them. At least they're giving it a shot. But I'm telling you, that is where the interest is. MLW doing the same thing. I think that's where people need to go and look at things. That's where we are. I don't think it's too far off base to say that even though WWE doesn't have legitimate competition that is head-to-head with them, I still think the major independents can make a run at their talent and take advantage of a major fan base that is being underserved. Maybe they could turn a few people over to appreciate the major indies once again. I mean, it's not showing up on television yet for any of the shows. I mean, MLW doesn't have a very big audience in beIN Sports. Impact Wrestling moving themselves to a later hour on Pop TV. They did get a little bump in ratings for their second week, and we'll see if the 0 hour event draws some interest, but they're struggling to get themselves over 100,000 viewers. After getting more in the 200,000 viewer range, they're hurting right now. Maybe they can get it back. Maybe they can kind of make that back up in time. With that said, WWE's in some rough shape right now with what they're doing. Roman Reigns having to step down did not make matters easy, but it is the turning point, I think, for all the different companies now to start taking notice. Because I'm telling you, before this all was said, before everything was going on with Crown Jewel getting up to this show, we were okay at SummerSlam. We felt okay about, Roman Reigns has the belt now, and we were content. And we saw, maybe we're going to get somebody else, or we're going to see a chance for the company to do some more, right? At least we think they would. When I look back at what's gone on since SummerSlam, where we really did feel like everything was doing okay, right? I don't think anybody was too upset about things. We really wouldn't have a whole lot of changes going on. I mean, right now we still can pretty much agree that AJ Styles right now is doing very well. Still our strong champion right now on the SmackDown side, which is important. New Day, still very popular. I think New Day is starting to lose the luster on that gimmick. Not the gimmick is going bad, but I just think it's wearing thin. The gimmick for the New Day is wearing thin on me, at least. Does that mean they're going to change anything? Probably not. But I just feel like that's where they are now. Other than that, there isn't anybody out there on the roster that really makes me feel like, wow, there's something really big going on. I don't feel that right now either. Seth Rollins, IC champion. Okay, nothing's really been done with that, more or less. Dean Ambrose coming back with a heel turn. We're going to wait and see if they're going to do anything with that coming up. No Elias on this Crown Jewel show, which is another guy we think is going to be important. Bobby Lashley loses in a semifinal match. Is that right? Did he lose in the semifinal or in the quarterfinal? Actually, no, quarterfinal. That's right. He lost to Seth Rollins. The way they put it together. And when you look at I don't know how much control was out there. Like, I don't know if the Saudi princes or the people that are around the show, they said, okay, like I basically played with the skit, right? How much control did the Saudi princes or the Saudi Sports Authority have, the General Sports Authority, have with what was going to be booked on the show and who was going to be on the show? Because when you look at who's on the show, these are all established stars. Like, there's nobody on here on the show whatsoever that has been here for less than a year, except for the pre-show with Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. But look at the veterans that you had on the roster that fought in this pay-per-view. Okay, let me just go through and I'll just kind of guesstimate here. Listen. So Rey Mysterio, he's been a what? Well, overall, he's been around for over 20 years. And what? 17 of those with WWE. Randy Orton since 2002. Miz since 2004, 2003. Jeff Hardy since 98, 99. Dolph Ziggler since 2004. Kurt Angle been around since 98, 97. The Cesaro and Sheamus. You got Cesaro has been around for over a decade. Cesaro has been around for about 7 years, 6-7 years. Sheamus has been around for over a decade. Big Show, well over a decade. He's another 19, 20 years in the company. Big E, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, they've been around for a long time as well. All going back to FCW days, right? Miz, we said, right? And then Seth Rollins has been around for 4 or 5 years? Well, 5 years, right? These are all veterans. And older veterans, by the way. There was nobody young on this roster. It was all veterans. So, no revival for any tag titles, but then the tag titles were not defended tonight. Only the SmackDown tag team titles. No Usos. I mean, there's just not much there. There's not a lot of new stars to go off of. I mean, we did mention Elias not being there, but there's not a lot of new stars to think of right now to really consider. And when I look at the rest of the roster, Drew McIntyre, off and on, he's been around since 2004, right? 2005. AJ Styles, we know how many years he's been around. I mean, he's relatively a couple of years into the company here, but then you got Brock Lesnar. Braun Strowman is probably the most relatively new star that was out here. But then again, he's such a behemoth out there. How could you not? And they need to have somebody take on Brock Lesnar. And if it was going to be Roman Reigns originally, we're going to have that 3-way. But a lot was said, a lot was interpreted as to what WWE is feeling right now, how they handled this pay-per-view tonight. And then, of course, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Brothers of Destruction. You're talking about what, over 200 years in age on that show, with the longest match of the night. Again, another match like Super Showdown, another roughly 30-minute match, which was way too long for this, way too long. But they had to placate to the global audience. See, when WWE was giving us shows like Beast of the East, well, that's a different story. We enjoyed that pay-per-view a lot. But we don't like these when these are truly glorified house shows that are being put out there for the sake of just placating to that crowd. Which, I mean, you're going to get the criticism from the WWE Network in the first place. You know you're going to get that. And I don't know. I just didn't like it at all. A lot of things they done on this show, I just did not like whatsoever. Anyway, let's go through it. So like I said, Shinsuke Nakamura defends the United States Championship. He's just sitting there with the title as a prop. But Shinsuke Nakamura is not being used at all. He's not being used properly whatsoever. They gave him the chances. They just let him lose and lose. And they've messed up what was actually a really good gimmick. But the thing was with them is when there's a language barrier, they just don't care. They just don't care. They don't think that they think it's important. They have to be able to go and talk and promo in that WWE style that everybody can understand. But no. This is where Nakamura, listen, I commend Nakamura for coming into this company and being here and really doing whatever he could under really tough circumstances. Well, this is just what happens to everybody else. But I think, he's already talked about how he's not ruling out the possibility of leaving WWE after his contract. And I'll tell you what, he should. Because he's going to get a true homecoming at New Japan when he gets back there. I mean, he's going to get, and there's going to be some matches that people are going to be looking forward to. And I'm telling you, he's going to be missed long enough. That crowd's going to have, when he goes back to Japan, I'm going to tell you, that guy is going to get a hero's welcome. He's going to be adored once again, coming back to where he was. So that's good for him. Hopefully he'll do very well. The meantime, World Cup quarterfinal matches, which just didn't matter. I mean, these were just, they did between 5 and 8 minutes for all these matches, and they just felt like, Rey Mysterio over Randy Orton, Miz over Jeff Hardy, Seth Rollins over Bobby Lashley, Dolph Ziggler over Kurt Angle. And the fact that Kurt Angle was in there for an 8-minute match, but these were not memorable matches. They're just not important. Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton. Randy Orton decided to go and go heel after he loses the match to Rey Mysterio. So that was to get his heat back. Okay. Understanding Seth Rollins winning, but I mean, God bless Bobby Lashley. He just gets buried here. Buried in a 5.5-minute match. Horrible. I don't get this. I don't get why he's being booked this way, but I think they've lost faith in Bobby Lashley, which was the biggest mistake. They could have done something with this, but they're not. They've chosen to not do anything with him. And Drew McIntyre was just not even used, which I don't understand why he wasn't used for this tournament. I guess they still want to have this deal where Dolph Ziggler's eventually going to have a split, and they're going to have to break out that alliance, and they're going to have their feud, I guess, but that's just bad for everybody else. Now, SmackDown Tag Team titles, it was nice to see the New Day coming out in this big royal kind of thing, whatever they did, which was kind of cool. But other than that, it was just another tag team match. I just can't get into anything with the New Day being involved. I really have tuned out from New Day altogether. It's not them. It's just, the gimmick's not for me. The pancake stuff, it's just not for me. I just have lost interest altogether to it. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I just lost all interest whatsoever. Now, World Cup semifinals, we get to, which again, this World Cup was irrelevant. Again, it just, when they put these prop trophies out here and things like that, it just don't matter. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't even use the King of the Ring tournament to do this. They could have just brought that back, but they chose World Cup, and they chose to go with this. And okay, whatever, just whatever you want. Okay, fine. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, they get a shorter match, but they did do very well for what it's worth. And AJ looked good. I thought that was actually a match that was actually okay. Probably could have used more time. That was taken away from it because of the Degeneration X Brothers Destruction main event. They should have taken more time for that. But then, again, I tuned out for the most part, and I skimmed through all those World Cup quarterfinal matches. They're just adequate. But again, this is a pay-per-view. And, these guys come out here, and they, your undercard is just kind of flat, which I don't think the Saudi Prince is sitting in those nice plush chairs out there, turbans and all, and they're just kind of watching and just saying, oh, Sim Sadabim, look, no, this and that, and just watching their stuff. And, the crowd that was out there was actually pretty responsive. And I'll tell you, they did a nice job of decorating everything. I mean, it did look really amazing. Another WrestleMania type set for this event, which looked good on TV. But then I'm telling you, those last three matches, it was like a bad TNA pay-per-view. It was like a bad WCW pay-per-view. It's 32 minutes of action that we just hated. I hated it personally. A horrible way to finish this pay-per-view off. It was just bad altogether. It was just the way the booked together and the way it was put together was just horrible. Brock Lesnar, with the help of Baron Corbin, I don't even know if Baron Corbin now is in a deal with. I thought Baron Corbin was going to do something with Elias, but now apparently Braun Strowman's going to have to go after Baron Corbin. I don't know if that's a feud or what, but it's stupid. And Braun Strowman was made to look like a fool tonight. A rematch with these guys, and for whatever reason, Braun Strowman, there is just no trust in this guy being a champion. And I guess they just think he's such a big monster, he doesn't need the belt. I mean, how many times did the Big Show win the belt? I don't think he won once. But he's a big guy. So they don't think it's important for him to have the belt. It's obvious for that. They don't feel like that's going on. Plus, the other thing which I would have to agree with is who else would be able to take the belt away from him if he did win? Like, if you have Braun Strowman win, who's going to go up against him? Seth Rollins? I don't know. Who else? Elias? I don't know. But that's the problem, is that were you going to make it where he was going to get beat up and beaten down? If somebody was going to be able to go and take him down, it was going to be Brock Lesnar. But the way they did it was ridiculous. So Braun Strowman looked like a fool because he gets bashed in the head with a belt, woozy the entire match, and takes, 5 F5s, which I guess that's supposed to be a big thing, that he took 5 F5s, and that was enough to take him down, and then Brock wins. So he's champion again. This Brock Lesnar Braun Strowman match, I'm going to say it like this, and I'm not afraid to say it. This match felt like the fucking finger poke of doom all over again. I mean, this felt like a Kevin Nash book show. All due respect to Kevin Nash, I think he could have booked something better than this. But this, I mean, just the whole night felt weird. Hulk Hogan hosting at the very top, and it just felt like a WCW show. It felt like there was that whole old guys in the back that won't drop their spot, and they're the ones that are in control of the matches, even though they just don't have it. They can't cut it. But I'm sure Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and Kane probably would not be trying to look for their spot because they're not. But the perception feels like that to me because of the fact they took the payday. Which I understand they took the payday, but it sucks that they even had to do this. I'll tell you one thing they should have done. This is what I think as well. This should have never been a straight up match. This should have been a gimmick match. This should have been something hardcore, street fight, something like that. They should have done something else with this match than have it be a conventional match, because this was just... Okay, we'll get to that main event in a second. But then it's going to be Miz and Dolph Ziggler. Miz supposedly gets hurt, and Shane McMahon, who was already down there to present the World Cup trophy, he decides to go ahead and interject himself and fight Dolph Ziggler. And in 2 minutes, 30 seconds, he wins and becomes champ. Like, I feel this is all like WCW stuff all over again. I felt like this, with Shane McMahon winning, this was like a Vince Russo or a David Arquette winning the WCW World title again. Right? I mean, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like that? I'm trying to even think if TNA even had something like that where they were just horrible champions when they were at the time. I was trying to think about that. The Impact World Champions. Who was the original champions at that time when they did that? Was there anybody that was just really horrible that they should have never put the belt on? No, it looks like there wasn't. But I'm just saying to myself, when I think of WCW and I think, look, it's like, again, the David Arquette moment revisited with Shane McMahon, nepotism coming into play. He wins and he gets to call himself best in the world. Okay, maybe they could play off of that, but just the fact they got here sucks. Braun Strowman, one of your biggest baby faces, buried at the behest of Brock Lesnar, who now gets to go back to part-time work. Now, was Roman Reigns, because of the Roman Reigns going away, does Brock Lesnar come back after this pay-per-view? Like, we already know Brock Lesnar took the payday to come to the show. But does WWE put him back under a temporary contract or a short-term contract in order to continue things so that you have a strong champion there, with the risk of putting the belt back on him? Like, who do you have now that goes up against Brock Lesnar? You can't tell me you're going to put Braun Strowman back out there again. Who's the next guy that's going to take on Brock Lesnar? Is he going to keep that belt going into Royal Rumble? Could he keep that belt to WrestleMania? Like, listen, Brock Lesnar's in amazing shape again because he's getting himself back in shape for UFC once again. And even Dana White would love to see the WWE title, the Universal title, come into the UFC and storyline. He would love that. And he's not going to work both sports. So what is this going to become? What does this become for Brock Lesnar now, holding this belt again? I don't know. It just doesn't make a difference. And there's nobody on the roster now that looks like they even look like a credible threat. I mean, you got to tell me Bobby Lashley's going to get a chance to go back after it again? No. Drew McIntyre? No. Who do you have that's even believable that could go up against Brock Lesnar now? Roman Reigns was the only guy we thought out of anybody on the roster current that could do it, and now he's no longer there. Can't bring back Goldberg. You think you're going to bring back Batista? I don't even know what you're going to do here. The company has put themselves in a spot storyline-wise, and people are going to crap on this because they see what this pay-per-view looks like at the end. And then you look at this D-Generation X, Brothers of Destruction, Triple H and Shawn Michaels reunite once again. Coming out in those leather jackets, and I look at one shot of them as the Brothers of Destruction come out to the ring, and I look at Triple H and Shawn Michaels with the bald heads and the, no shirts with the leather jackets, and I'm saying to myself, they look like a couple of fucking retired Chippendales dancers. Like they did. They look like they should be working for some damn male review somewhere. Work for La Bear or something like that. I don't know. That's a men's. That's like a ladies, like men's strip club for ladies, right? And I'm just saying, it looked like that. And then seeing these guys out, and listen, it's unfortunate Triple H got hurt, but these guys worked so slow. It was just plotting. You saw them miss some of their hits. It was sloppy. It looked bad. I mean, Triple H, yeah, he was hurt with the arm. Must have given one of the worst pedigrees I've ever seen in my life. Kane, without disregard, throwing Shawn Michaels onto an announce table. One announce table that actually was cleared of all the debris. But then Kane throws Triple H onto the announce table that still has monitors on it. Slow match, slow story. I mean, there was not even a good story being told. And I mean, we're so programmed to seeing matches go like a certain direction, but man, nothing hardcore about it, nothing whatever. It just felt like an old school match, but this felt like a WCW match. I mean, I'm just surprised we got a finish. Which in this case, D-Generation X gets their win back on the beatdown by the Brothers of Destruction from Super Showdown. And that's it. So they close that out. But now, what's your main storyline coming back into Raw and SmackDown this week? Brock Lesnar is champion again. Braun Strowman, are they going to build him back up? Bobby Lashley buried. And then, I don't know. Like, do we get... I don't even know what we get now. I really don't. And on the SmackDown side, well, AJ Styles is champ again still. Daniel Bryan will be back after taking a loss in a long match, though. And Shane McMahon is now the heel general manager. It's going to be a tough couple of months. And I don't even know what this company is going to do when the offseason's done and WrestleMania season comes back in January. What are they going to do in the next, 8-9 months to get themselves, get the momentum back? It's already bad enough. The ratings are not helping much. They're only pulling in a little under 2.5 million viewers sticking around for Raw on Monday nights. They're hurting right now. The stock price doesn't say it. The revenue is not going to say it for the fourth quarter, obviously, because of what they're doing. But I'm telling you, it's not good. When I look at what's going on here, it's not looking good at all. They're in a rough shape. Now, their stock price is doing not too bad. It is $70.16, which is a little bit better than before. But again, listen, they're making money hand over foot, and they're at such a momentum pace right now where they're not going to see any suffering until much later. I don't even want to go through the rumors that are being said and other things that are being talked about when it comes to the show. But I just hated it. I give it an F. There's not often I would grade a bad show, but this was an F. This is a show you throw away and you take under consideration that this was in Saudi Arabia. And all that was done here was at the behest of the Saudi princes and for the Saudi family, the royal family there that got to sit at ringside on those nice country chairs on the couches. Otherwise, that's it. It was for them. And I'm sure they were happy about it. You tell me that Brothers of Destruction, that main event match got a "This is awesome" chant. That should have got one. They get one right as they begin. They get it as throughout. And that crowd was just eating it up. You know, it's just too bad that they are not spoiled and desensitized by what goes on with WWE because it's just not good. It's just not good. Anyway, that's where we are. I could go on probably for another hour about this, but I'm just going to stop. I've already gone about 45 minutes. That's enough. I've said my piece. And with that said, we're going to leave things until Wednesday. When we come back, we see what the fallout for Crown Jewel is. Anything else comes across. But again, we're going to be just under a quiet lull right now when it comes to wrestling. And we shall give time for all this stuff to ferment and to progress and see if the fans get something that they want out of all this. But at the moment, I don't think they are. So We'll leave it at that. So check back in here Wednesday when we do another Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast, brought to you by Amazon. If it's good enough for the king of podcasts, it's good enough for you. And it's also the best way to support the show. kingofpodcasts.com/Amazon. You can also send your PayPal donations to paypal.me/kingofpodcasts. Subscribe to King of Podcasts Premium How to Be a Better Podcaster channel at cocoscope.com/King of Podcasts. That's COCOscope.com/King of Podcasts. Let the King of Podcasts help you with your professional podcast or audio production, imaging, voiceover, audiobook, or web design services by going to kingofpodcasts.com/production. That's kingofpodcasts.com/production. And don't forget to follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter at King of Podcasts or on Facebook at Wrestling is Real. And don't forget you can find all episodes of the Wrestling is Real podcast at kingofpodcasts.com or subscribe to the show on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the Creative Not Corporate Pop Culture Media Podcasts, also hosted by the King of Podcasts at creativenotcorporate.com.